to remind you, Katharina.
So welcome, everyone. We have a very special evening tonight. Given the amount of registrations, this is a topic that interests many teachers, many colleagues. So I will be here to let them in. I will very shortly tell a few words about Murray and then turn over to you, Murray. I'm extremely happy that you're here. You and I know each other from a mastermind group with a group of seasoned people who all want to, not to make a ton of money, but to live from the profession they love. And you and the others that we met in the mastermind group, we are veterans. You are a veteran in the freelance teaching world, but this is also to indicate that even veterans, they go and continuously learn. They challenge themselves by going to mastermind groups to get feedback and to advance. And this is exactly the theme of tonight. You are not invited to become a marketing pro. You are invited to stay with your profession, with what you love, with what you teach, but only to learn how you become world famous in your town, your community, your territory. That's enough. World famous in your place. And Murray is here to help us how to do that, to help us attract more participants for our mindfulness teaching. So we can do what we know from research is valuable to do. And we can do what we love and what we are trained to do. We are certified to do that. We practice ourselves to be able to be good at this. And therefore, we think that it would be good that we learn how to do that technically, communication-wise, marketing-wise. At the end of this webinar, I am sure that you will have, if you not only already have seen that marketing is in fact empathy in action. When I first learned that, I was flabbergasted because also me, I was a researcher in the university. I did not think of marketing that way. Marketing now for me is empathy in action. And with this, Murray, I thank you very much for being here. And I give the floor to you. We are, meanwhile, almost 50, and I will keep an eye on that. I will not lock the room.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Katharina. Thank you for that introduction. And I want to start off by expressing my gratitude to you for inviting me to be present in this community and for inviting me on the previous call with John Kabat-Zinn, which was very educational for me. I learned a lot from taking part in that call, and I listened very carefully to what was being said. And Katharina has invited me to come and speak with you today to talk about how to attract clients to your mindfulness teaching practice in a way that is consistent with the values that you hold as mindfulness teachers. That was something that came through very strongly in the previous call. And Katharina and I have had a few conversations about what's happening in your profession. And my understanding is that you're seeing a decline in demand. And part of the reason for that is because increasingly today, people think that they can get things for free. Everybody wants to get something for free. And so if they want to learn mindfulness, they can find free apps that will teach them mindfulness. They can watch free videos that will teach them mindfulness. And they can probably find some free events, free webinars, maybe even some free in-person events where they can learn mindfulness as well. So this situation, by the way, is going to get a lot worse. And the reason it's going to get a lot worse is because of AI, which some of you may be aware of what's happening in the world of artificial intelligence at the moment. Increasingly, people are turning to AI for the answers. And I've been astonished at some of the things that I've seen recently. that can be produced using AI. So right now, it's possible to get an artificial intelligence like ChatGPT, for example, to write an entire course on mindfulness. It could write the lesson plans, it could write the video scripts, it can write the website, the content for the website, it could write all the marketing. And we're not very far off the point where somebody could type into some piece of software, teach me about mindfulness, and it will just deliver the whole course just from that single prompt. That is really not very far away. I would think within a couple of years, that's the sort of technology that we're going to be up against. And including avatars that will be very human-like, that will be delivering the training. So there's the cost of delivering that kind of online learning is diminishing and diminishing and diminishing, and it's really approaching zero. So it's going to become easier and easier for people to access all kinds of free stuff online. And the reason that people do that is because they think that they can get the same understanding from accessing free videos, free apps, and AI-driven content than they can from working with you as person-to-person mindfulness teachers. And of course, we know that they're wrong about that. They can't get the same experience from any kind of free service as they can from investing in working with you as mindfulness teachers. And the problem is that people don't realize that. They don't understand that. So somewhere along the line, the message is not getting through to people, that people aren't understanding the benefits and the value that you can add as a mindfulness teacher. And that value, as the world is taken over by artificial intelligence, increasingly the one point of difference that we've all got is that we are not artificial intelligence. It's our humanness that becomes our main point of difference. The fact that we can interact with people, the fact that we can react to people, the fact that, as Katerina has just mentioned, we can empathize with people, and the fact that you as mindfulness teachers can tailor what it is that you're doing to the individual specific circumstances of each and every person that you work with. That's the difference that you bring. That's the value that you bring. And that is something that's worth paying for. And so this is a problem that we all face. So everything that I'm going to talk about tonight, you can find for free online. You can find free videos, you can find articles, you can find blogs about how to do marketing. In fact, you are getting it for free online, because here we are doing it for free online. So, and again, all of my clients could also access all of this content for free online, but they don't. They want to work with me. And the reason they want to work with me is because of the difference that I bring, and the fact that I can do all the things that I was just talking about that you can do, which is to discuss people's marketing with them, to react to their circumstances, to show them how to apply what they're learning in their specific unique set of circumstances. And that's something that they can't get for free online. And so I have the same challenges that you have, because I also have to communicate my value to the people that I work with. And if I can't do that effectively, then I can't build a sustainable business. And so if you want to build a sustainable practice, a sustainable mindfulness teaching practice, this is absolutely essential to learn how to do this well, to learn how to do it properly. And Katerina has asked me to create a version of my program that is specifically for mindfulness teachers who are members of AAMBA. And I'm very excited to have the opportunity to do that. And later on, I'll explain to you what that's all about and how you can enroll if you're interested in taking this further and learning how to create a sustainable mindfulness teaching practice through the use of ethical marketing methods. And it's not free, for the same reason that your mindfulness teaching is not free, although I've made it very, very affordable. And the reason that it's worth investing in yourself to pay for this program is the same reason why your clients should be paying you instead of trying to do everything for free. And it's because of the value that you bring, the value that I bring, the difference that you and I can make to our clients' experience. So I was honored, actually, when Katerina invited me to the meeting with John Kabat-Zinn recently, and I recognize a few faces from that meeting, so I know that a lot of you were on that meeting as well. And John had some very interesting views on how to expand your business, and he stressed the value of word of mouth, and word of mouth being the best way to market your business through personal referrals. And of course, he's right about that, because word of mouth is the most powerful way to communicate your value, through people who've actually had the experience of working with you and are passing that on to other people. It becomes a problem when there aren't enough words coming out of enough mouths. And if you cannot build a sustainable practice just through word of mouth, then you have to find another way. And I listened very carefully to what was being said on that call, and I really understand that many of you don't like what you see when you encounter marketers and marketing. You don't like the overpromising. You don't like the fake scarcity. You don't like the time-sensitive discounts that are really just exist to create unnecessary urgency. You don't like the pressure tactics and the mind games. And I want to tell you that I don't like those things either. I really hate all of those things as much as you do. And I think that there is a backlash that's coming against those kind of methods as people are getting more and more familiar and recognize them when marketers are doing that and using those kind of tactics. But there is another way. And one of the comments that was made on the previous call that has really stuck with me is that somebody, I'm really sorry, but I can't remember who it was. Somebody described what you're doing as being like a lighthouse, that you're shining your light out to the world in the same way that a lighthouse shines out to signal that it's there to help sailors to navigate their way around difficult waters. And I want to build on that analogy, because the bulb in the light of your lighthouse is your marketing. And if that's not working, then your light isn't shining. And what that means is that nobody knows you're there. And if sailors don't know that the lighthouse is there, they're going to be crashing on the rocks and drowning, not ever knowing that there was a lighthouse there to help them. And at the moment, there are people that you could help, which we're going to come on to later, who are crashing into the rocks and drowning because they don't know that you're there. So today what we're really going to be thinking about is how to shine your light more effectively so that you can do what you set out to do when you became a mindfulness teacher, which is to help more people. That's probably part of your motivation for why you wanted to do it. So to begin with, I want to give you the opportunity. I don't want this to be all just me talking, so I'm going to ask you to join in from time to time. And because there's quite a few of us on the call, we're going to have to do that through the chat box. But from time to time, I might invite, if you post something in the chat box, I might invite you to elaborate on it if you're willing to do that. Of course, you don't have to if you don't want to. But you can also raise your hand if you've at any time if you've got a question or a comment or an observation, so that we can converse about this. We can talk about it. And to begin with, what I'd like to understand, if I can just share my screen, is what is it that you most want to get out of today? So if you could post in the chat box, what do you want to get out of this session, and what questions you want answered? What are the kind of things that are top of mind for you? Just so I can read a few of those and make sure that we're covering the topics that you want to talk about or you want to know about. And when we've done that, I'll show you what we're going to cover today as well. So what is ethical marketing? Yes, great question. And how can I shine my lighthouse from Deirdre? Very good. How to define your target audience? Yep, that's something we're going to cover. More on expressing empathy in marketing. Yeah, we'll talk about that too. How to get a consistent flow of participants. They're happy, then they disappear. Yes, that's a problem, isn't it? That they may start working with you, but they're not continuing to work with you as much as you might like. Maybe we can deal with Brigine's question about what is ethical marketing. So a lot of the marketing that you come across talks about some of the things that I was mentioning just now, about making people think that there isn't enough of something because that makes people want it more, making them think that they're getting a special deal that's going to run out because that creates urgency, giving people small freebies, and then upsell. It's called upselling, isn't it? Where you give them something free, then you sell them something small, then you sell them something bigger and bigger and bigger. And all these kind of tactics are questionable, I think, in terms of their ethics. They can be used ethically, but it all really depends on what's the underlying intention. Because the purpose of marketing isn't to get people to have things that they don't want or things that they don't need. And far too often, these kind of tactics are used to get people to do things that are not in their interests, to get them to buy things that they don't want and sign up for things that they don't need. And that, I think, is what defines something as unethical. So ethical marketing, and we're going to look at how you can market your practice without resorting to any of those kind of dodgy tactics. And that I believe is what marketing ethically means. That's what it means to me. Okay, so define the target audience. Yes, empathy, we're going to talk about that. How to get people to keep working with you. We'll cover that briefly. Which channels for marketing? Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. Missing out on any helpful marketing waveform or platform that could help me. That's Katerina Schick. Yes. Okay, and what are the main priorities for a mindfulness teacher in marketing, communication, developing their activities? And what role does networking play in ethical marketing? Most of us will give an 8-week course. After that, we normally are looking for new participants. Great. And what can we learn from the commercial marketing, that ones we're disliking and think non-ethical about? Great. Okay, good. I'm really pleased to see those objectives that you're sharing there, because that's very much the kind of things that we're going to be talking about today. So I'm relieved that we're on track, that we're all on the same page. Okay, so let me go back to sharing my screen again. And I've got another question for you, which is, oh, sorry, no, I haven't. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk a bit about what we're going to cover today. This is what I want to share with you. So firstly, we're going to get a little bit clear about what we mean when we say the word marketing. What does marketing actually mean? And then I want to show you a formula that I've developed for attracting and keeping clients. And this will deal with the question of the 8-week course and then people don't come back, or that they start working with you, they're happy working with you, but then they don't return. So we're going to look at this formula actually addresses that question. And then there are 5, what I call the 5 must answer questions. And these are questions that any new person who comes across your teaching practice is asking themselves these 5 questions. And sometimes people know that they're asking these questions, but sometimes they're unconscious. They don't know that they're asking these questions. But whether they know it or not, it's really important that they get a good answer to these questions, which is why I call them the 5 must answer questions. So I want to share them with you and talk a little bit about what they mean and how you can answer them and why they're important. And there was this is something that I also heard on the call with John Kabat-Zinn, that there's a reluctance, and which I can understand, to feel like you're competing with each other for mindfulness business. But I don't think you need to compete with each other, and I'm going to share with you the reasons why I think that. I think you can build your business without being in direct competition with each other. And then we're going to look at how you get your marketing message out there. So what are the ways that you can communicate And that will cover some of the questions that you've got here about different methods and different channels that you can use for your marketing. And then finally, we're going to talk about how we can continue to work together, you and me, I mean, if you want to get really good at this and if you want to take it further. So I'm going to explain that to you at the end and tell you how we can do that. All right. Everybody okay so far? I've just seen another comment in the chat box from Katya, how to stand out when it comes to a standard program. Yeah, that's a great question, isn't it? So yeah, so we can talk about that too. Okay, so moving on then, can you put your answers then to this question into the chat box? What is marketing? So what do you take that word to mean? What would be your definition of it? Giving people what they want? Yeah, give and take, a kind of sales. It relates to sales, doesn't it? Meeting customer needs at a profit. Yeah, great description. Letting people know about your services and selling, putting yourself on the market, bringing your offer to consumers, everything related to bringing my services to the market, going to the market, making things visible, showing my offers and making them available to buy, putting a product or service on the market, not only selling, but branding your offering and reaching a target group. That's very interesting. Ways of attracting clients, shouting out your offerings, bringing over your offer, or the science, Benoit says, bring some science, bring some rigor to it. The science of fitting to customers' needs and desires and bridging these with offers. Simon says, introducing myself. Yeah, it's letting people know that you're there. So I want to share with you a working definition for this, which I think touches on a lot of what you've said. And there's some really good comments in there that we're going to see how that applies as we go on. So the working definition, I would say it's communicating how you can solve a specific problem for a specific type of person or group of people without actually meeting them. So there was there were quite a few comments about this fit between what you do and the needs of the people that you serve. But usually, very typically, that could be more specific. And that's something that we're going to look at, is how to make it more specific, because the more specific you are, the more likely it is that those people are going to be drawn towards working with you. So that's going to be our working definition for today. And so where I want to start is by talking about this client attraction formula. So how do you do that communication? Or how do you bring clients to your practice and keep them there? And there are really five things that you want new prospects or new people that you meet to do. The first, it's a prerequisite to everything else. If this doesn't happen, nothing else will happen. The first thing that needs to happen is people need to notice you, because you can't do business with somebody that you don't know exists. So the first thing you need to do is to get noticed by the kind of people that you want to be working with. And that's why the marketing channels are useful. This is what marketing is. It's a way of getting you noticed. Secondly, you need to make a connection with people. And by connection, I don't mean somebody accepting a friend request on Facebook is not really a connection. It's a connection when you start to have a meaningful individual conversation with people, or a meaningful dialogue with people of some way or some form or another. And then that connection leads to engagement. This is where you can take the conversation deeper, so that people are starting to really pay attention to the things that you say and to the messages that you're putting out through whatever channels you're using. And if that all goes well, the next stage is that people enroll with you. And after people enroll with you, you want them to return. So this is the question about how do you get people to do that at the end of an 8-week course? If people come along and have a few trial lessons with you or trial sessions with you, what can you do to make sure that they come back again? And how can you set that up in the way that you engage with people in the first place, and the way that you enroll them, the way that you bring them into your practice? How can you create the expectation that you're going to have a longer term conversation with them? So this seems like a very straightforward process. It almost seems obvious when you lay it out like this. People have got to notice you, then they've got to connect with you, and then you've got to engage with them, and then they have to enroll at some point, and then you want them to return. But there are very specific things to do at each of these stages, and different ways of thinking about how you get noticed, how you connect with people, how you engage with them, how you get them to enroll with you, and how you get them to return. So we can talk about that shortly in our discussion. So it really does raise a question. Why don't people just buy straight away? What do you think the reason is? Why do we have to go through this long process before people will come and work with us? Why don't they just enroll straight away? You know, they could notice you and enroll with you, couldn't they? Trust. That's it, in a word. In a word, unsure of the value that they'll get. Yeah, that's it. So people we live in a very low trust world, don't we? That people are very suspicious of what they see. And part of the reason for that is because it's very easy to make a business look good, look professional. You put up a website, but people don't believe what they're seeing. And so this brings us on to ambivalence, that it's the best right thing for them. Yeah, great. And people don't know what mindfulness is, so they don't know if what that's on offer is the real thing. Great, that's really significant. We'll come back to that. They've got a busy life and they've got no time, and their fear of engagement for 8 weeks. Yes, that's a potential barrier, isn't it? Thinking that they've got to make a commitment. And this brings us on to the 5 must-answer questions. Because the people who encounter you, when they do notice you, they're suspicious, scared even, yes. It's common to go out for dinner and spend money, but not mental health being paid for is not that familiar yet, yes. Yeah, people think nothing of going out and spending money on things like, well, and we'll come on to some of the other things that they will spend money on, that they could be spending on mindfulness as well. So there are 5 questions.
Dobrze, co, mamo, ja zadzwonię, bo mi się przypomniało, że ja tu mam taki meeting jeden. No.
Okej, dobrze, Magduś.
Oh, sorry, it just came off.
Just go on, unmuted.
Yeah. Okay, so and oftentimes they don't look into the teacher's background and qualifications and experience. They just go with who looks shiny. Great. Okay, that might be another example of what ethical marketing means. It's not just about making things look shiny, but it's about making good quality connections with people that you really know that you can help because of your qualification and your experience and your background. Those things are all really important. What do you think of lowering the barrier of engaging by providing services on a donation basis, which allows clients to first experience the value and then pay? Yeah, sometimes that's what you have to do. And that may be part of the process of engaging with people. One way that you can engage with people is to give them a trial experience. Well, what's most important is that you then think about how do you then convert that engagement to people enrolling to work with you on a paid basis, because otherwise it's very easy to get taken advantage of by people who just want the free stuff. But we need to recognize that the reason that people want the free stuff is because this is a way of doing things that people are becoming very, very familiar with now. You get something for free first, and then you pay for something. And so it's important to recognize that's part of what people are, that's part of the expectation that people have. So it's thinking about ways that you can do that in a way that doesn't mean that you're spending a lot of time, too much time working with people who aren't paying you, because you can't build a sustainable practice on that basis. Let's have a look at these 5 must answer questions then. So the first question is, who are you and why should I trust you? So, and it's interesting that the first answer when I asked, why don't people just buy straight away, was trust. That's right. So people have no good reason, as from their perspective, they have no good reason to trust you. So that's front of mind for a lot of people. Who are you and why should I trust you? Then the second question that people tend to ask is, do you understand me? Do you understand me and my problem? Do you understand what's going on in here and what's going on in here? That's my heart I'm pointing to. So I'm slightly off screen. I'll stand up so you can see it. Do you understand what's going on in here as well as in here? And I've given myself cramp. I've been sitting down for too long. I'll stand up for a bit if that's okay. That'll probably help. Do you understand me and my problem? And if you do, have you got a potential solution? Mindfulness. But what about mindfulness? There may be a specific way that you approach it. And it's a potential solution to my problem. But then the other question is, will it work for me? This is a really significant question that is often overlooked. And of course, you know that it will, don't you? Because you've done all the training and you've got all the experience and you've worked with other people who have exactly the same problem, and you know that the problem can be solved, or that you can help people to make progress on their problems. And it's not just about problems, it's also about goals that they want to reach. We can think of those as two sides of the same coin. I'll come on to that again in a moment. So you know that you can solve their problem, but they don't know that, because for them, their problem is all theirs and it's completely unique and their circumstances are unique. So not only do you have to show them that you've got a solution that might work, you've got to also show them that you've got a solution that will work in their unique set of circumstances. And then the last question that they ask is, why should I come to you and not one of the thousands of other people who might be able to solve my problem, or one of the thousands of other ways that I could solve my problem, or if not solve it, at least make it feel a bit better? So those are the 5 must answer questions. And I've also shown you the client attraction formula, which we can go back to. I'll just recap on that for you, which is notice, connect, engage, enroll, and return. Those are the 5 things that you want your clients to do. And the 5 must answer questions. Who are you and why should I trust you? Do you understand me and my problem? Have you got a potential solution? Will it work for me? And why should I come to you and not one of the thousands of other people who could potentially solve my problem? Okay, so I want to open it up to questions and comments at this point. So if you could raise your hand if you want to join in verbally, or you can post a question into the chat box if you'd rather. But do feel free to join in the conversation at this point. So how do you not promise too much in answering the question to, will it work for me?
Yes, Deidre, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, well, that was my question. So
it's your question, yes. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've done a project, for example, on sport injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of scientific evidence to say that an MBSR course is very good for that. So that, you know, if you've actually injured yourself and you play sport, you really want to get back into it. If you do an MBSR course, it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got, I have a problem with promising that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And what are the reasons why you can't promise that? Why can't you promise it?
That's a good, yeah, that is the question. I can't promise it because I don't know enough about the person really to know if it is going to help or not. I don't know enough. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what the injury was, and it's sort of so. And maybe it's a question. So what can I promise? Yeah. I think it's a very good question, because I mean, it really, if I could get the answer to this question, I'd be able to do a lot of good advertising.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Deidre, are you not taking too much on your shoulders? Because no doctor can promise that a medicine will work unless the patient is co-creating and taking responsibility. So you could answer it conditionally. Yes, it will work, but under certain circumstances.
Yeah, but I'm actually going out. I'm looking to do advertising with it. So if I do advertising with this, then I'm maybe putting a promise out there which isn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really recognize the dilemma that you're facing, Deirdre, because you want to make it attractive and appealing so you attract clients to your practice, but you don't want them to be disappointed later because they didn't get the result that they thought they were going to. I think that kind of encapsulates the problem that you're describing. So one way of overcoming this is to keep things as factual as you can. So what can be very useful in this case is testimonials from other people that you've helped, because those are facts. If somebody says, I recovered from I'd had this injury, I'm making this up now because I don't know the details. So I had an injury that wouldn't heal and it kept happening again and again and again. But after I had mindfulness training, it went away. If somebody's had that experience, then that's true, and you're showing people that it's social proof, so that you're allowing them to see, here is somebody like you who overcame the same problem that you've got, but you're not promising people that they're going to get that result, but you are showing them that it's possible.
Yeah, that's great. That sounds really good. Thank you. It's so easy, really, in the end, isn't it?
Well, it's easy, it's simple, but it isn't easy. I think that's the distinction I'd make. If you think there's simple and complicated, and then there's easy and hard, and it's uncomplicated, so it's simple to do these things, but it's often hard because, particularly you're very close to your own business, it's much easier for somebody else to see it than it is to see it yourself. Yeah. I think the expression is, you can't read the label from inside the jar.
Yeah, and I know myself that I've got a sort of a feeling I don't want to, how would you say, push somebody into doing something. I'm very careful about that. Yeah. So that is something that I have, though, personally. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Deirdre. And I just want to pick up on a couple of comments in the chat box, which I think are also relevant. So Katerina is suggesting, do you have data or research that you can cite when advertising? So that's great, because that's an example of these are the facts and keeping it factual. And you can't promise, but you could explore the idea of trust as a mindful attitude, trust in yourself and the data you spoke of. Okay, yeah, that's very relevant as well. So yeah, and it's that I think people are quite sensitive to being overpromised, and there comes a point where they don't believe what they're hearing. So, but it's a genuinely difficult balance to find. So I think it's something that we all have to work at. So Benoit, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes.
Good. What's your question? Hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you. About scientific studies, it's clear. I think it's clear that if there are claiming that mindfulness is good for some stuff, they also show that maybe they are good in 70% of the people they worked with, or that in a majority of the cases. And so even if you have a scientific study, you can show to people it did not work for 100% of the people they studied the effect of mindfulness. So I also like to show the scientific evidences of the benefits of mindfulness, but each time you have to be aware that it's not working 100% of the time. So that's also something that can free you from over-promising that maybe the person you have in front of you is one of the 30% kind of people for which it did not work. That's okay.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because if you're upfront about that, then people can see it. And it's also thinking about who's responsible for what in your practice, because your job as a mindfulness teacher is to make it clear and accessible to people how they can use mindfulness. But as Katerina said, there's an element of co-creation in it, that you can't make them do it. And if they don't apply the methods, or if they're inconsistent with it, then at some point people have to take responsibility that it's not magic, and that they have some responsibility to make it work for them as well. Noor, hello. Oh, did you have a question, Noor? You had your hand up a minute ago, and now you've disappeared off my screen.
Yes, hello, sorry, I was just trying to...
there you go.
Actually, it's a very interesting question. I would like to share something on that view of numbers and studies and evidence-based. A funny story, I'm a doctor, and I can tell you that those who approach me are not interested in the intellectual discussion about if it's evidence-based or not.
Right.
That's a very funny part, honestly speaking. And it's very, very interesting is, once again, to use that fundamentals of mindfulness, not striving. So I usually ask people, what are your expectations from me? What do you expect from the program? And then I explain to them what it's all about. Eventually, if they have like an expectations as in end targets, I will disappoint them and say there are no end targets, because probably if you would take this program 1 year after, you will have a new insights so different than now. So otherwise, yeah, that's what I really encourage people to really not strive and try to go back and lean on mindfulness fundamentals. And there comes the story of the Lighthouse you mentioned earlier, Murray, so beautifully. So I would suggest, on speaking, let's try to avoid the discussion about the intellectual part, because it will be is it right, isn't wrong, how many percentages? And those who are really approaching mindfulness trainers have already tried the regular medicine and it didn't work out. So what is really the benefit? So far, so good, knowing that it exists for 40 years. So it's something I wanted to share.
Yeah, that's great. I think you've raised some really really valuable points there, Noor. And asking people what their expectations are is a great question. And then because it gives you the opportunity to set those expectations right from the outset, so that there can be no misunderstandings later on. And also this question of whether people are interested in the research and the data is something that I'd like to come back to in a few moments, because it's really important to understand how people go about making these kind of decisions. Okay, so let's move on. I mentioned at the start that I wanted to share with you why I don't think that you need to compete with each other. And so if I share my screen again, so the reason that I don't think you need to compete with each other in order to build a sustainable practice is as simple as this. There are 750 million people living in Europe. Now, I want to ask you a question. What percentage of those people do you believe could benefit from more mindfulness in their lives? Just post in the chat box. What percentage of people do you think could benefit from mindfulness in their 120? Yeah, some people who haven't even been born yet can benefit from it. 100%, all of them, everybody. 90%. Okay, that's a little bit more, Stasi is being a little bit more cautious. Even 50%. Okay. All right. And then there's a question of affordability. So maybe half the people who live in Europe couldn't afford it. Let's say half the people couldn't afford it. And let's take the lowest number that we've had is 50%. So that means a quarter of these people living in Europe could both benefit from mindfulness teaching and could afford it. That's nearly 200 million people who could benefit from mindfulness and could afford it. So that's a huge, huge potential market for 4,000 mindfulness trainers across Europe. That gives you, I can't do the arithmetic, somebody can do it for it, thousands anyway, thousands of potential clients each. So really this is a question then of communication. Somebody made the comment earlier that people don't know what mindfulness is, and they're not familiar with, and somebody else made the comment, they're not familiar with spending money on promoting their own mental health and mental well-being, but they'll spend money on a meal. So part of this is, how do you then communicate this to people, the benefits that they could get? And that brings us on to the only two things that clients really care about, that any of us really care about. At the most basic level, we care about two things. We care about problems that we've got that won't go away, and we care about results that we want that we haven't got. So people want the bad feelings to go away, don't they? People want to be loved. They want to be successful. They want to be happy. They want to feel calm. They want to be accepted. They want people to like them. They want to be attractive. They want to be out of debt. They want to be happy. They want to get on with people. What do people do when they can't get those things? Just type in the chat box some of the things, apart from going to their nearest mindfulness teacher, which of course is what they should be doing. What else do people do when they can't get what they want, when they can't get rid of their problems, or they can't achieve the results that they want? They go to the bar. They take pills, they drink, they overwork, shopping, consumerism. Yeah, all this rampant consumerism, retail therapy, they call it, don't they? They're unhappy. Well, they ignore it. They just bottle it all up. They bury their problems. They withdraw, socially withdraw. They overeat. They find something to numb themselves. They take it out on other people. That's so true. Or they just get on social media. As Katrina said, the good, the bad, and the ugly all in the same place. Or they migrate to another country. Yeah, the extreme ones. Change their name, disappear. Yeah, all kinds of reckless behavior, isn't it? Binge watching TV, just to gambling, taking drugs, just to numb the pain of being alive. And you can help all of these people. You can help them. They just don't know it. And marketing is about showing them how. It's about showing a specific group of people what you can do to solve their specific problem. And the more specific you are about that, the more you can distinguish yourself as being an expert in a particular niche, it's called, isn't it? A particular marketing niche. What niche do you occupy? Who can you serve? And if you think about your services, what you do in that way, that's another reason why you don't have to compete with each other. Because you could focus on doing mindfulness for people who have eating disorders. You could focus on mindfulness for people who are stressed out because of overwork. You could focus on mindfulness for people who want to obtain inner peace. And you can be more specific. What kind of people? One of my clients focuses on recently promoted, I've forgotten what it is now, recently promoted, underconfident professionals. So that's quite specific, isn't it? They've got to have been recently promoted, overachievers, that's it. Recently promoted, underconfident overachievers. It's very, very specific. I think the issue with mindfulness is not that it's one and done. You have to continuously, for the rest of your life, keep practicing it. Though it's similar to fitness. Yeah, that's very interesting. And people think nothing of paying 50 to 100 euros a month to go to a gym, do they? Everyone wants instant solutions. It's very true. But you have to meet people where they are, that they start off with a problem that they want to get rid of. Part of the process is educating them about the reality of it and the fact that it's not just about solving short-term problems. It's about a completely different way of living. So what I want you to
Yuri, we have a question from Kiva, from Divya. She raised her hand.
Divya. Hi.
Or he. I can't see your picture. Could you unmute yourself and bring your question to the table, please? Lost patience. Are you still there, Divya? Okay, let's move on.
Okay, well, we can come back.
You come back, Divya. Your hand is still raised. You can have. Oh, sorry, not letting me unmute.
Oh no, some audio problems. Divya, would you like to type your question if you can? Rennie says mindfulness was always practiced in contemplative communities, not as an individual who learns then goes off on their own. Yeah, we don't replicate this at all. That's very interesting. Okay, well, we're going to move on. We can come back to you, Divya, if you are able to either type your question or to unmute. What I want you to take away from this, the reason why you don't need to compete with each other is because you could be living next door to another mindfulness teacher, and there's enough people who could benefit from mindfulness who can afford to pay for it, probably living in your town, to keep both of you in business. Social mindfulness, that's an interesting way of putting it, Brigitte. So I want you to think about who you can serve the best. If you were to narrow your focus, how would you do that? And here are some useful questions. Think about what kind of problems are you best able to solve? I know that mindfulness or results, or what kind of results are you best able to enable for people? I know mindfulness covers a really very, very wide range of benefits and problems that it can help to address. But what works best for you? What are you best at doing? And what sort of results can you deliver for people? Where do you get your best results? If you think about the people that you work with, is there a particular type of person that you are particularly effective at working with? Who do you find most interesting and exciting and fulfilling to work with? Because that's important too. It's not just about what you can do for them, but it's also about making it sustainable for you as well, the kind of people that you want to work with. And what's different about the way you work? And somebody mentioned that these are standard, you may be delivering standardized courses. What are you doing differently? What's what's unique about the way, or maybe not even unique, but what's different or uncommon about the way that you work, how you go about doing things? And how does your unique story make you especially suitable for these people? So somebody pointed out that people go after what's shiny and they don't think about the qualifications and the experience and the background. So what is it about your background that means that you're particularly able to help a particular type of person or a particular group of people? And it may be that you've experienced what they're experiencing, for example. So just spend a couple of minutes thinking about that, and then put your answer in the chat box. If you were going to serve a niche, and being as specifically as possible, if you were going to narrow your focus, who would you focus on? And why would it make sense for you to focus on those people? Right. Okay. So while you're thinking about that, Divya has posted these couple of comments. So the incongruity between the heart of mindfulness, it says you're whole in the present, and selling a solution to the person. The whole, what needs fixing, question of marketing. Yeah. So I'm going to say a few things about selling, because I don't think selling should be necessary. I don't believe it's necessary. I don't like selling myself. I don't like being sold to either. You probably don't like being sold to. But we all like to buy. We all like to buy things that solve our problems and help us to get to the outcomes that we want. So we all enjoy, we're all quite happy to buy things, but nobody likes being sold to. And selling, to my mind, means getting somebody to have something that they don't want or need. And that's why it's unnecessary. Well, that's why I believe it's unnecessary, because in my experience, when you show somebody that you've got something that they want and that's going to nourish them and that's going to benefit them and that's going to make their life better, and you're the right person for them to work with, they're going to want to buy it anyway. You don't need to sell it. You just need to make it clear. And I don't know enough about mindfulness and what you mean, Divya, about the I've lost your question now. So where are we? Oh, there we are. About being whole in the present and whether that's compatible. Let me know. And then niching is necessary for marketing, but I wonder how many of us came to mindfulness teaching to get away from capitalist ideas of success. Yeah. Yes. It's not capitalism, really. If you're providing a service to somebody, you're not investing a lot of capital in your businesses, I think, on the whole, apart from the money that you've invested to get your qualifications. You're not exploiting anybody else's labor, which is what capitalism really is about, isn't it? That I thought Katerina put it beautifully at the beginning, actually, that you want to make a living from the profession that you love. But it may not be important, in which case you don't have to. But if you do want to make a living out of it, and actually if your mission is to help people through mindfulness, and you want to be able to do that full time, you can't do that if you're having to work a job to make the money, because you can't do it through mindfulness. So I just invite you to think of it in those kind of terms. Let's have a look at some of these niches then. Niche. I really
there is
professionals I know from my professional career. IT people, project managers, business developers, and innovators. Great, yeah, because you can make that very specific. I facilitate mindfulness programs for more energy and better results. Explosive. It helps top IT people facing a volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous work culture, unlocking resilience, well-being and collaboration skills. Great. Work mainly with other mindfulness teachers through CPD, a community of support and ongoing training. Brilliant. My unique story is how mindfulness helped me. That's the reason I became an MBSR teacher. That can be very, very powerful. If you can show people like you that you've been through the experience yourself. So that can be powerful too. Teaching mindfulness is the right livelihood. Yeah, thanks for that comment, Brigitte. Corporate employees with burnout and high stress. And Katja says that she was one of those for 12 plus years. So again, if you've experienced it yourself, it means that your story becomes very powerful. And that's very attractive to people. They're drawn towards you because of that. And Divya says 90% of clients come from word of mouth. When I used to do traditional marketing, I didn't see much return. Yeah. Excuse me. The point that John made as well in his talk.
Murray, we got a nice comment here regarding the capitalism.
Word of mouth. If you can build your business from word of mouth, then that's fantastic, because you'll never get a better new client than one who's come to you on recommendation from somebody else. Those 5 must answer questions, most of them have already been answered through word of mouth marketing and referral marketing. Military veterans. Great. Okay, so that's a very specific market. All right, thank you very much for that. And this is something that's really significant, actually, because quite often people are reluctant to narrow the niche too much. But the more you narrow the niche, the more the people that you're speaking to will think that you're talking directly to them. The more your message will resonate in the hearts and minds of the people that you want to be working with. And that can be very, very powerful. It makes you magnetically attractive to those kind of people. Thomas has a question.
Hands raised. Hi, from Thomas.
Yeah, I face a little bit of.
Hold on,
I just recently started.
Just bear with me a sec. I've lost my volume. Yeah, go again.
Yeah, I just recently started as a mindfulness teacher, and I'm not quite sure yet who is going to be my target audience. And I face a little bit of a dilemma because you mentioned, some numbers in Europe, 750 million people, and then maybe half of them couldn't afford to take mindfulness courses. And actually it would be quite nice to focus on these people because they can't afford it, right? Why to focus on those who can afford it? Yeah. And at the same time, I want to be able to make a living. So that's somehow the dilemma I'm seeing there. So maybe you or somebody else have some thoughts on that, how to, I have some ideas about, just do the right thing and then everything else will come, but I'm not sure if my trust is good enough for that kind of approach. And maybe it needs a bit of both. Maybe, have 2 niches or 2 different markets. I'm not sure. I'm just talking out loud a bit now, but I stopped talking.
No, it's great. It's great. And there's a couple of things I want to say. Firstly, you said that you weren't quite sure what your niche is going to be. And I would say that that's a feeling that never goes away, that it's always good to revise and rethink who do I serve, because people change, you change, you're changing, the world's changing, and people are changing. So it's a fluid situation, it's a dynamic situation, and it's a question to keep asking: who do I serve best? Who do I serve? Who do I get the best results with? That may change over time. So that's one thing to recognize. Another thing to recognize is that when you focus, it's like a target. If you look at the target, your focus with your marketing is on the bullseye, the people that you most want to be working with. But there are outer rings. So there are also other people who will be drawn towards you, who are not the specific people that you're focusing on. So the fact that you focus on a particular niche doesn't mean that only those people will come to you. You'll also get people from outside of your specific niche. And I really recognize what you're saying about wanting to be able to help people who can't afford it, because in some cases, those are the people who need it the most, and they may need it more than the people who can afford it. So one way of doing that is to make a good enough living from the people who can afford it, that you can do pro bono work for the people who can't. Maybe have a subsidized or even a free offering, or a pay what you can model where people pay what they feel they can afford. What do you think, Thomas?
That's useful. That's useful indeed. Thanks for that. And
you're very welcome.
Also mentioned she's doing that, right? Mixing it up. So it seems to be a successful approach. So
yeah. All right.
We're
Yeah, Marianne
having a few comments in the chat where the question about right livelihood, capitalism, and pricing are combined. And people are saying that some dedicate part of their activity to vulnerable populations and offer reduced prices to them, have 1 or 2 people in their courses. You are never obliged to do your full-time with a paid job. You could put aside a percentage to cater to people's needs that can't pay it. But the interesting thing is that when I work with people, I've had people who work 30% for free, and those 20% or the rest of the time, they won't pay their bills. So you have to find a balance in that. Meaning when you define your niche, you also have to find out whether your niche is large enough. But if it's large enough, boil it down to something very, very specific. I have one client, she's a relationship coach for spouses with borderline. Now, could you imagine that there are enough? She has enough clients because she can talk in a way that people will immediately recognize she knows my problem, and with her, I can get my result. So the more specific you are, the only thing you have to be careful for is that that market is still big enough, and then you upgrade a little or you downgrade a little. But being specific is a worry, but it's not really necessary worry. Is that correct, Murray?
Yeah, I would agree with that, and it actually brings us on to the next question, which is really about how do you get your message out there, and how do you get people to notice your message and to pay attention to what you're saying, and being really clear about who you serve, how you can help them, and why they should come to work with you is really fundamental to that. And I want to share with you this rule of thumb, the 40-40-20 rule. And I put the rule of thumb just in case there are any academics on the call, because when I first heard of this, my first question was, where is the research that underpins this 40-40-20 rule? And the answer is, there isn't any. So it's a rule of thumb, and what this 40-40-20 rule says is that 40% of your marketing success comes from having the right audience and from knowing your audience. So that's why we've just been talking about really thinking about who you can serve and who you can serve the best, because the more you get focused on that audience and on understanding that audience, what Katerina was just saying, something as specific as dealing with spouses with people who've got spouses with borderline. That's a very, very specific audience, and you can begin to talk to that audience in a way that they really, really see that you understand them. So the more specific you are, the easier it is to focus on understanding that audience. The next 40% is having the right message, so being able to communicate what you can do for these people. And we've spoken already on the call about how people may not understand what mindfulness is or how it can help them. And so they're numbing themselves with all these kind of unhealthy coping mechanisms. And so this is about how do you communicate your message in a way that means that they'll understand what you can do for them. And only 20% of your marketing success is about having the right marketing methods. So it's not that it's completely unimportant whether you use Instagram or Facebook, or whether you use networking, or whether you create some kind of referral system, or all the other. We're going to talk in a moment about the methods that you could use. It is important, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is having the right audience and the right message. And if I say to you, you can't sell steaks to vegetarians, you'll understand what I mean. It doesn't matter how good your marketing methods are. If you're marketing to vegetarians, they're not going to buy steak, however well you market it to them. So it's making sure that there's a fit between what it is that you do and the people that you do it for, and that you're able to communicate that to them. And what Katerina was just referring to about the person who works with people whose spouses have got borderline is what I would describe as the cocktail party effect. The reason it's called that, I don't know if anybody still has cocktail parties, but the idea is that if you're in a noisy environment like a cocktail party, you may be focusing on what's being said by the person standing in front of you, but somebody on the other side of the room can say your name and you'll hear that immediately. It cuts through the noise. And the reason it does that is because your name is important to you. It's valuable to you. So you hear it through the noise. And this is the same when your message gets really, really specific about the problem that you can solve for a specific group of people. Because if your spouse has borderline personality disorder, you know what you're living with. And when somebody speaks to you that shows that they also understand you and your problem, do you understand me and my problem? It's the second one of the 5 must answer questions. It will cut through the noise. And the reason that's important is because we're bombarded with marketing messages all the time. And the vast majority of them aren't relevant, even with targeted marketing. So we've developed defenses that we defend ourselves against the incoming messages. But people will listen to you when you talk to them about in a way that demonstrates that you can really, really understand them. And for this reason, it's very important that you deeply understand how your preferred client thinks about and talks about their problems. Because we've been lied to, and this was something that came up earlier, wasn't it? We've been lied to. I think this is, I thought about this when Noor was speaking earlier about whether or not people are making their decisions based on research, because economists have lied to us for over 100 years about how human beings function, that they've told us that we're all totally rational and that all we care about is maximizing our own, what they call maximizing our own utility, our own self-interest. We don't act in service of anybody else apart from ourselves. And if we're producers or service providers, all we care about is profit. And that we make absolutely, completely rational decisions based on carefully weighing up all of the available information. Now, as a group of mindfulness teachers, you probably know better than most people that almost none of that is true. Human beings are not rational. We don't act only in service of our own self-interest. And we don't make rational decisions based on weighing up the information. We mostly make our decisions based on how we feel and what emotions we've got washing around. And then we justify that afterwards with a story that we tell ourselves about why we made the decisions that we made. And the field of behavioral economics is starting to show, is gaining ground against the kind of traditional economic models by showing repeatedly over and over again, and they've been doing it now for 40 years, demonstrating that human beings don't act in the way that the economic models say that they should. And that's why it's so important to really understand the problems that people have got that they want to get rid of and the results that they haven't got that they want to bring closer. And really understanding for your preferred client, how do they think and talk about those problems? So how does a compulsive gambler think about wanting to stop? And what do they say when they're talking to people in the pub or in the cafe or talking to their spouse? What do they say? What are they thinking? What are time deprived, busy professionals who are overworked and stressed out. What do they say about that? How do they think about it? How do people who've tried every other cure that's available, but haven't solved their health problems, think about that and feel about that and talk about it? And when people are lying awake at night worrying, what is it that they're saying to themselves? What's the 3 a.m. conversation that they're having with themselves? Because when you can use the same kind of language, talk about the same kind of feelings and the same kind of thoughts, that's when you'll cut through the noise and really, what you say will really resonate with people. This is making some sense. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Murray, can we listen to Luke before you
Sure.
go on? So
Yeah.
Luke, please unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
I'm going to try and articulate 2 points.
Yeah.
I've got a very specific niche in terms of how I generate income. So I work specifically with elite athletes, and I've got a background in that context, and that's led to working with business leaders. But I've found that it's not been possible to really, the level of authenticity in which I can market into that space is limited, because most sports people want to know the performance benefits of mindfulness as a tool that can help, them perform better. And then indirectly, when I get into connection with athletes, then it goes deeper through the human connection. So the marketing is quite crude in a sense, because it is trying to say you will perform better. But the reality is, when you look at mindfulness and how it relates to, your home life, your pressures outside of sport, and relating it to that, then it starts to get a more holistic picture for the athletes. But they don't respond to vulnerability very easily, and neither do the business leaders that I'm attracting, that seem to like the sexiness of the sports stuff. But when so that is a mechanism, if you like, which I have felt in conflict about over the last few years. But I'm realizing now, once I get into a direct connection with the people, the honesty and the kind of seeing the suffering, they start to get that it's much deeper than just performance. But I've come to terms with that's a bit of a game, if you like, marketing in that way. But I know that I get into real communication, that the game comes away, and it's like we're in relationship now. But I'm doing that because I know the particular sensitivities of the spaces I'm working in there. But so that's been a conflict, but I feel like I've resolved it. But it still is slightly, marketing only one aspect of the benefit, not the deeper aspect.
Yes. Okay. So the problem here, as I see it, is the comment that somebody else made earlier, that people aren't aware of what mindfulness can do for them, and this is what you're articulating here. That these elite athletes just see it as, I want to perform better. Will mindfulness help me to do that? Now, you know that it goes a lot deeper than that, and there's a lot more that it can do for them. But you have to meet people where they are. You've got to meet. You can't get somebody interested in solving a problem that they don't believe they've got, or in getting a result that they don't believe that they want or need. You can only get people interested in problems that they do believe that they've got, or results that they do know that they want or need. So elite athletes.
If I market authentically, I would be calling myself someone that specializes in working with people that are under high pressure and in a lot of denial. Now, that would never work, but that's the reality. I seem to be a specialist in the area. But yeah, so it's sort of, I guess, hearing this, I feel, I don't know, still feel a little bit like I'm playing the game, but I am meeting them on a particular level which makes sense to them.
Yes,
and then
exactly. Yeah.
Me to then be real with people and slowly lead them into more depth if they are willing.
Yeah, because there's a process of education involved, and you're leading them on a journey. They're not going to come with you on that journey if they don't feel like it's good for them or working for them. So what you're doing is, I still see it as ethical, because you may not be talking about the whole of what you can do for somebody, but you are talking honestly and ethically about a part of what you can do for people. I'll give you a similar example. I work with a lot of corporate trainers, and I've also recruited a lot of corporate trainers, hundreds of corporate trainers. I've interviewed hundreds of corporate trainers for corporate freelance training roles, and about 90% of them don't even get through the first stage, just because their training is not good enough. But I've done research. I've got a survey that I run that shows that the average score, that I ask people to kind of self-rate a number of things, and one of the things that I ask them to self-rate is how good their training is. The average score is 88%. So trainers all believe that they're brilliant at corporate trainers. They all believe that they're brilliant at training, and the only problem is that they're not very good at marketing and they can't get clients. So I have to start work with them on where they believe the problem is, which is also true, that they don't understand marketing and that's why they can't get clients. So it's also true. But actually the bigger problem is that if they were better at training, they'd get more repeat business. And if they got more repeat business, they wouldn't have to spend so much time looking for new clients. This is also true to some extent for you as well. That if you get, the more repeat business you get, the less you're reliant on new business, new clients coming in. So, so it's a similar kind of situation. I know that there's more to the problem than these corporate trainers believe, but they are not going to come to me to improve their training because they already think their training is unimprovable, or that there's very little room for improvement. But and I think the same is true with what you're saying, Luke, is that you know that there are benefits beyond what these elite athletes can see, but you have to connect with them at a level of what they believe they need from you. Otherwise, and it's like you say, if you work well with people who are in denial, did you ever meet someone who was in denial who admitted that they were in denial? It's the nature of denial, isn't it? They're going to deny that they've got the problem.
Yeah. The second point I just want to say quickly is that there's something about confidence in earning money for me as well, because as part of my company, I've got a very strong social value about helping vulnerable young people. And what I've realized is that that's the deeper value in the business that I'm running. But at the same time, I feel like I've hidden behind that as well, because it's comfortable in my identity to the humility of that work fits in with my values in terms of reaching the most vulnerable. But also it's become a comfortable place. And actually, I'm starting to shift into realizing that I can charge a high fee when I'm working with business leaders, and feeling a kind of like there's deep value in that too. And also the impact you can have when you work with leaders and the effect they can have on others. But there's been a shift in realizing worth and actually not hiding behind the idea of the most vulnerable need this, and dropping that idea and just gaining momentum at earning money. And that also supports the community side of our work. But I found I got stuck in that, was hiding behind humility or something, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. And it's a familiar story that that there are mindset issues around and values-based issues. We've seen some of them on the chat. Values-based issues around money and around how much you earn and whether it's okay to make money. And that's a deeply personal question, because there's your own values and there's your own mindset. But also Divya made the point earlier to use corporate, if you're and it sounds like this is what you're doing, Luke, is because the corporate clients have got much deeper pockets than non-corporate clients, and so you can use the money that you make from working with them to subsidize other work.
Thanks.
Right. Okay, thanks for that, Luke. So I want to move on because we're running short of time, and I'd just like you to think about what are the let me share my screen again. If we're thinking about marketing methods, what are all the different ways that you can communicate how you solve the specific problem for the specific type of people or group of people without actually meeting them? What can you do to communicate that message? How can you get people to notice you, and how can you connect and engage with them? What thoughts have you got? what methods are you using at the moment? Deirdre, you have your hand up.
Yeah, what methods am I using at the moment? I'm using the praxis that I give MBSR courses in. They've got 500 patients and we're sending out emails to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. And then there's the health insurance in Germany. There's a big place where you can, you know, put your courses online and people in the area will find them. So that's
great. Yeah.
a great method as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're the two big things that I use. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Deirdre. And yeah, that's great. If you can get connected with some kind of healthcare provider or a government scheme or something like that, that's a great way to bring yourself to people's attention. There are a lot of these kind of directories and online services where people can find courses. So what else have we got? We've got newsletters, websites, social media, Instagram posts, LinkedIn posts, public schools.
I found as well,
Yes.
we spent a lot of time on social media, and it's like a sort of a black hole. There was so much work involved in getting things out there, and like loads of people signing up as well online for test hours or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody appearing. I think social media is so difficult. Sorry. Yeah, that was.
Yes, it can be. It can be. And it's part of it is understanding how social media algorithms work and what you have to do in order for the platform that you're using to promote your work. And also that it's not just about posting, it's also about how you engage with people and how you can, because social media is very good for connection, but then you have to think about how you're going to engage with the people that you connect with as well. So we've got posts on social media, videos. Yeah, you've got YouTube, it's good for videos. You can be one of the providers of free videos, stories from the courses, blogs, newsletters, pictures from weekend retreats, a person in the community that you found powerful. Great. So Katerina pointed out to John Kabat-Zinn when he said that he did everything by word of mouth, that he was speaking to some very influential people. So you can make connections with people who have a lot of connections themselves. At the library, you can access closed groups. So there are offline groups, there are online groups. So you can partner up with a yoga studio, and then let them do the marketing for you. Yeah, great. These kind of joint ventures and partnerships. There are lots of different methods, and no one method is going to be the best or can be said to be better than others. It's a question of test, as Deirdre was saying, testing and working out. Taster events, health days, company days. Yeah, great. So you can give people, and somebody mentioned this earlier, you give people a taste of what it's like to learn about mindfulness, and then they can then become clients of yours from having a bit of the experience. Okay, well, we're right up against time here, so I just want to finish off by saying a little bit about how we can continue to work together, if that's something that's of interest to you. If you'd like to know how to get really good at doing all of this and making it work for your business. So as I mentioned, Katerina has asked me to create a special version of the program that I run with corporate trainers, just for members of EAMBA who are mindfulness teachers. So it's a 6-month program, and it's going to show you how to use the client attraction formula: notice, connect, engage, enroll, and return. How you can use that formula and what you need to be doing at each of those stages to maximize the number of new clients that you attract to your business. Also, how to answer the 5 must-answer questions. So what you can do to make sure that people understand who you are and why they should trust you, that they know that you understand them and their problems, and that it's going to work for them, and that they know why they should work with you rather than any of the other ways that they could get their problems solved. And really part of that is understanding the unique difference that you make. So what it is that you're doing differently, and what it is about you and about your background and your qualifications and your experiences in life that make you particularly well suited to work with the preferred client that you want to work with. And then there's the elegant art of building your practice. So as I mentioned earlier, I hate selling. I really don't like the concept of selling, the idea that you've got to get somebody to have something, but actually you can build your practice without doing that. You can build your practice by having honest, integrity-driven, straight conversations with people that allow them to see how you can help them and what it's going to be like working with you. And then people will want to work with you, and you don't have to sell to people to get them to come to you. And this is how you build a sustainable mindfulness teaching practice. And the sustainable element means unless you're independently wealthy, or you've got another source of income, if you want to be able to help the maximum number of people, then it's important that you can make a decent living out of it. That's what makes it sustainable. So what this program is going to look like is every month we're going to have a 90-minute virtual workshop, everybody on the call, a bit like we are today. 2 60-minute group coaching sessions in small groups of between 4 and 6 people. And the reason that's important is because you can learn from a virtual workshop. You can get some great insights, like you've been getting some great insights today. But it's really important that you're also able to apply what you're learning to your specific circumstances. And so the purpose of these group coaching sessions is to give everybody an opportunity to talk about the problems that you're experiencing, what's going well, what's going not so well, something that you don't understand that you want to ask questions about, or something that you want to go into in more depth. That's what the group coaching sessions are for. So that happens every month for 6 months, a 90-minute virtual workshop and 2 60-minute coaching sessions. There's also going to be a private forum where you can share your ideas, ask questions, and discuss your progress with your colleagues, and various tools and templates that help you to kickstart your marketing, tools that help you to more deeply understand the people that you want to work with, and tools to help you understand the transformation that you bring about for people and how you can communicate that to them better. And the investment that I'm asking you to make in yourself in order to participate in this program, just to put it in context, my corporate clients pay £1,500 for their version of this program, which is slightly different in the way that it's structured. The investment for you is €112.50 per month, including VAT. So this is per month, or if you want to pay in sterling, it's £99 a month, including VAT. Both these prices are inclusive of VAT. So you subscribe for 6 months and pay that amount each month. And if you're interested in signing up, you can go to this URL, www.bit.ly/Ayamba, and you'll find there a page that explains everything to you about this program, and has a button that you can click that will take you through to the registration and payment page. Or if you prefer QR codes, there's one there that you can scan that will take you to that page as well. Okay, so to sum up, again, I want to express my gratitude to Katerina for inviting me to come and talk with you today, and to all of you for coming along. And I know that there are people who are going to be watching the recording who couldn't make it in person. So thanks to all of you for watching as well. It's very rewarding for me to work with a group of people who are doing so much good in the world. And I'm really excited about the prospect of being able to work with you. I hope you'll come along and join the program, and we can continue to work together to think about how you use ethical methods to communicate the value that you can bring that makes it worth paying you rather than trying to access mindfulness learning for free. So I know we've overrun slightly, so thanks for hanging on for the extra few minutes as well. And I'm happy to continue talking if there are any, or continue just with the discussion with you if anybody's got any more questions.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks a lot. Allow
My
me
pleasure.
to add a few points.
Yes.
You will find the link to this on the post that we created on the Yamba page. I will place that tonight. You will also find a recording that will probably be on YouTube during the weekend. And we will add the slides that are here. It is important, since Murray just stressed that this is an offer for you if you are a member of an Ayamba association. So it's not even 10% of a normal price. And we try to make it close to the price that we as mindfulness teachers ask from our participants. So to just make it feel right. But if you are not a member of an Ayamba association, then you will not be able to use this link to register. But there will be a line where you can mail to Ayamba and we can discuss, we can direct you to an association in your territory, or we can find out what you're doing and give you access to this program. But before that, Ayamba members, they have preference. And if there are too many, then we will have a second group. But this group, Murray, I think we limited to 20. Is that correct?
No, we can have more than that.
Okay. But before we go into this, naming that number is not to put pressure on you that the group is limited. If we don't have enough spaces, we will have another one. We are not working with urgency, scarcity, and all the other aspects that are done in the run-of-the-mill marketing that put us in a stress reaction. So we don't want you to have a stress response by running to this link and thinking that there is scarcity, there's affluence. If you don't make it, there is always a next boss. And Murray will run it again. We agreed on that, Murray. So please think well about it, whether you want this, and then just do it because you want it. And because you trust that at Ayamba, we curated this offer, and we are sure that this is a good offer and a good price. Think about it before you sign. And with this, there are many thank yous in the chat.
There are, yes. Thank
you very much, Murray,
for expressing your gratitude. It's been delightful to work with you, and thanks for your contributions and your interesting questions as well. There've been some very questions that have really made me stop and think, which I always like. It's been great working with you. Thank you.
Oh, Diva, that's no problem for the camera. We will see you next time. Okay, thank you very much. Murray, great to have you here. Maybe you can stay on for a moment, and I have one question for you.
Sure.
Good evening, dear friends, dear colleagues. See you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank
you
so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye. See you soon. Okay, so I will put on the PDF tonight. If you,
I'll send you the slides.
yes, we still have. Oh, what a nice picture of Marianne. Okay, bye, Shona. Goodbye. Okay, I kicked out the last one. What do you think? How did it go?
Yeah, I felt that it went pretty much as I'd hoped. It's always a bit of a worry that people won't contribute, but people did. So that was good. Yeah, it was nice. And I think it's nice coming into a community that's very well established, and so people are used to each other and the format. So that makes it easier. And I thought people were making some great observations and asking some good questions and making some good comments. So so yeah. If
we manage to make the dates fit, I might come online, because I saw that there are quite a few questions about right livelihood, which is one of the 8 paths in mindfulness.
Right, yeah.
Things about capitalism, barriers about money, which is very important. Oh, I'm just seeing that I didn't stop the recording.
Ah,